The death of three civil services aspirants in the flooded basement of Rao's IAS Academy, Rao's IAS study circle in the capital over the weekend triggered a blame game between the Treasury and opposition benches in Parliament on Monday. The Ministry of Home Affairs meanwhile set up a high-level committee to probe the incident. In Rajya Sabha, Chairman Jagdeep Dhankad allowed a short-duration discussion after question hour, while the BJP MPs held the Aam Aadmi Party-led Delhi government responsible. The AAP and the opposition India bloc targeted the centre. Dhankad said the culture of coaching centres has become no less than a gas chamber and stressed the need to examine the huge expenditure incurred on newspaper advertisements by them. I find that the youth demographic dividend of the country has to be nurtured. I further find that coaching has become virtually commerce, he said. He also pointed out the high sums earned by the coaching centers leading to commercialization of education. Coachings have become a flourishing industry with high returns. Every time we read a newspaper, front one or two pages are by way of advertisements. Every penny spent on advertisement is coming from the fees of the students. Inside the mega kitchen of Paris' biggest, most famous patisserie, the chef is overcome by bittersweet emotions. The last dance of the man whose birthday cake she is made, designed and delivered for a better part of the last 2 decades could be near, and chef Marc Riveri fears it will be here. The thought of it makes me sad, said Riveri, who was also the pastry chef of the Ambani wedding last month, adding very, very sad. 3 weeks after PM Modi visited Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow, India joined the US, Australia and Japan in the Quad grouping Monday to express its deepest concern over the war raging in Ukraine and flagged respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, a clear reference to Russian invasion of Ukraine. As External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar met US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Japanese Foreign Minister Yoko Kamikawa and Australia's Penny Wong in Tokyo. The Quad reaffirmed its steadfast commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific, vowing to work towards a region where no country dominates others and each state is free for coercion in all its forms. This was a veiled reference to China's aggressive behavior in the region. After the Quad foreign ministers meeting, Jaishankar said the overall messaging is that our 4 countries, all democratic polities, pluralistic societies and market economies are working together for a free and open Indo-Pacific, for a rule-based order and for global good. That by itself is a powerful stabilizing factor in an uncertain and volatile world. The reference to democracy is important since the US administration under President Joe Biden has sought to frame the debate vis-a-vis China and Russia as a contest between autocracies and democracies. Modi visited Russia and embraced Putin during his July 8 to 9 visit, in which he also made it clear in public with Putin next to him that solutions cannot be found on the battlefield, and expressed concern over the killing of children in a Russian attack on a hospital in Kyiv. The Quad foreign ministers also said that they looked forward to India hosting the next Quad Leaders Summit later this year and to the US hosting the next Quad foreign ministers meeting in 2025. Biden was expected to travel to India early this year for a Quad Leaders Summit, but that did not happen due to the scheduling issues. On the Russia-Ukraine war, the joint statement of the Quad foreign ministers said, "We express our deepest concern over the war raging in Ukraine, including its terrible and tragic humanitarian consequences. We reiterate the need for a comprehensive, just and lasting peace in line with international law, consistent with the purposes and principles of the UN Charter, including respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity." Significantly, this formulation of respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity is not used by India in its national statement on the Russia-Ukraine war. We also note the negative impact of the war in Ukraine with regard to global food and energy security, especially for developing and least developed countries. In the context of this war, we share the view that the use or threat of use of nuclear weapons is unacceptable. We underscore the importance of upholding international law and in line with the UN Charter, reiterate that all states must refrain from the retreat or use of force against the territorial integrity and sovereignty or political independence of any state, it said. Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan and Housing and Urban Affairs Minister Manohar Lal Khattar took part in the discussion. Pradhan said that while education is a concurrent list, states cannot restrict their responsibility when it comes to cracking down on illegal coaching institutes. He told the House that the centre had sent directives to all states in 17, 19, 20 and 24 for regulating coaching institutes. The directives were aimed at registration at the coaching institutes and prescribing minimum standards that these institutes must follow, he said. It also asked the states to monitor the functioning of the coaching institutes and penalize them for any lapses, he added. Leader of opposition in Lok Sabha Rahul Gandhi attacked the union budget Monday, comparing it to the Chakravyuh of the Mahabharat war where Abhimanyu was trapped and killed. He said the budget had nothing for farmers, youths, middle class and Agniveers and promised that India bloc will break government's Chakravyuh and ensure MSP legal guarantee caste census. Displaying a photo of the halwa ceremony that precedes the printing of the budget, Gandhi said that there was no Dalit, Adivasi or backward class person in the photo. Speaker Om Birla objected to the photograph, saying the Lok Sabha leader of opposition must follow the rules. Poster nahi aane dunga. This is wrong, said Birla. Continuing with his speech, Gandhi said the country's halwa is being distributed and no one from the 73% Dalit is there. A total of 20 officers have prepared the budget and there are just 2 from the country's 90% population, 1 from minority and 1 OBC. And in this photo they too are not there, he said. Union Culture and Tourism Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat inaugurates India's first Sukain Museum at Humayun's Tomb Complex in New Delhi in the presence of Prince Rahim Aga Khan in New Delhi on Monday. During his current Delhi visit, marked with a packed schedule, Manipur CM N. Biren Singh met Prime Minister Modi, their first meeting since the ethnic violence between the Meitei and Kuki-Zu communities erupted in the state in May 23. CM Singh arrived in the national capital Thursday evening to participate in the Niti Aayog meeting and the BJP CM's conclave. He met Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Road Transport and Highways Minister Nitin Gadkari and Ashwini Vaishnav on Friday. Singh's flurry of meetings with the top BJP leader seems to be a clear signal that the party leadership may not have an immediate plan to replace him with a new face in the stiff-toned state, sources said. The uncertainty and division gripping the Manipur BJP appear to have left the party high command with no choice other than continuing with Singh at the helm of the state government despite the persistent demands from the opposition for his resignation. The BJP suffered a debacle in the recent Lok Sabha polls in the state which show the Congress wresting both the seats from the NDA. Days after the Delhi police booked IAS probationer Pooja Khedkar for alleging faking her identity to fraudulently avail attempts beyond permissible limit in the civil services examination on Monday, she moved an application for anticipatory bail in a Delhi court and arguments on her bail application will be on Tuesday. Khedkar, 32, who joined the Pune collectorate as part of her probationary training in June, faces allegation of misusing quotas under other backward classes and persons with benchmark disabilities to clear the civil services examination. The tragic death of Shreya Yadav, Niven Dalvi and Tanya Soni on July 27 after they were trapped in the basement of Civil Services Examination Coaching Center in Delhi's old Rajendra Nagar comes on the heels of another incident of electrocution of a young man. It paints a grim tale in the malaise in administration that the capital faces. As always, knives are out and the blame game is on. The ruling Aam Aadmi Party, which also controls the civic body Municipal Corporation of Delhi, has come out with standard excuses of being deprived of powers for effective administration. If newspaper reports are correct, local MLA Durgesh Pathak was himself a UPSC aspirant and has studied in such a coaching center. The Delhi wing of the BJP has demanded the resignation of Education Minister Atishi and MLA Pathak. Delhi's Urban Development Minister Saurabh Bhardwaj at a press meet shared a video of a meeting last month on monsoon preparation, alleging that officers refused to cooperate with the government. The truth of the matter is that the overall administration in Delhi is suffering, and indeed has been suffering for a while. This has been exacerbated by the Chief Minister's incarceration. Virtually no one is at the helm of affairs or in a position of effective decision making to guide ministers and officers. With the matter of the CM's arrest being argued in the highest court of the land, I dare say it cannot be anybody's case to deny him bail. Arvind Kejriwal is most certainly not a flight risk. He has roots in India. His family, aged parents in frail health, wife and 2 children live here. More than that, he has developed a life around his own style of politics. Many do not agree with this style. I had numerous disagreements with him. But the system makes allowances for such disagreements if the case of the prosecution is that he can influence witness. If he is out on bail, then this assumption is misled. Statements of witnesses have been recorded. In fact, some have turned approvers. Besides all of this, Kejriwal is sick. Three civil services aspirants drowned inside a coaching center in Delhi. The incident has sent shockwaves across the city because it shows the brazen manner in which the coaching center had been flouting zoning regulations. They were using a basement for a commercial activity. It's also shocking that the Municipal Corporation of Delhi seems to have overlooked what was going on right under its nose. The owner and the center's coordinator have been arrested, and Delhi's mayor stated that running a library in the space would be illegal, let alone a coaching center. So the first question is, how was this allowed? When urgent written complaints have been received, why did the authorities ignore them? One visit to the premises and the ceiling of the basement would have saved 3 young lives. The failure to intervene at the right time and the lack of monitoring the disposal of public complaints call into question the role of zonal engineer and his superiors. Unfortunately, TV debates and social media commentary are making light of these incidents by diverging the conversation. The focus seems to be on whether the drains were clogged with slit, whether there was deluge of water that inundated the basement, and whether all escape routes were blocked. Yet what they should be asking is, how was a coaching center being run in a basement? The MCD building bylaws specify the activities permitted in basement. Running a coaching center is not one of them. This is a matter involving criminal culpability. Heads must roll immediately. The zonal engineer and the staff responsible must be immediately suspended, and major penalty proceedings must be initiated and completed, including, if necessary, the dismissal of those responsible. Simultaneously, the business of coaching centers must be addressed by all governments, central and state. Misleading advertisement, poor quality of teaching, exorbitant fees, poor and or dangerous infrastructure, a huge subsector of the informal economy, it is running in a laissez-faire way. Some basic statistics will clarify the magnitude of the mess. More than 1 million aspirants compete for just around 1,000 seats in the civil services examination. In 2024, more than 2 million students attempted the medical entrance examination (NEET). Medical colleges in the country have a little more than 1 lakh seats. 3 things are clear. First, the number of aspirants who seek coaching is expanding. Second, the percentage of students doing well enough to make the grade is less than 0.1% of the total aspirants. Third, those running coaching centers have crashed on this as a business opportunity. Among the 99.9% of who will not make the grade, there will always be sufficient bias. Harried parents who will pay for coaching in the hope that it will enhance, if not ensure, placement of their ward in a professional institution. Governments have a responsibility to build awareness, improve regular schooling and college education, and reduce dependency on coaching. Early this year, the Ministry of Education tried to confront the situation, but it had perhaps set back after issuing a set of model guidelines for the regulation of coaching centers. In a letter dated January 16, the Ministry's Department of Higher Education issued a 13-page document recommending the registration and regulation of coaching centers. Since education is on the Constitution's concurrent list, it was left to the state to act within the available legal framework. Well intentioned as the advisory was, in one stroke, coaching centers got catapulted under the umbrella of education when the activity is nothing short of a business. At least in Delhi, the center's guidelines seem not have to be heard of. They were sent to the University Grants Commission, All India Council for Technical Education, National Testing Agency and NEET. They were sent to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare of all state agencies responsible for education. There is much confusion about whose responsibility coaching centers would be. There are ambiguities across schools, general, technical and professional education, each of which has its own hierarchies, sometimes even headed by different ministers. All this raises a fundamental question. Are coaching centers imparting education or conducting business? None of the education organizations to whom the guidelines have gone seem to have any authority or wherewithal to regulate coaching centers. To be fair, the model guidelines are well intentioned. Apart from a non-publication of misleading advertisement, they prescribe minimum space requirement per student, require the display of updated detail of the qualification of the tutors, the courses run, the fees being charged, the success rate so far, along with a section on adherence to fire, building and safety codes. There is also a suggestion that in case of violation of terms of registration, the coaching center would be liable for penalties on graded scale, even suggesting the quantum fines but hacked by power of a civil code. However, if policing coaching centers become the responsibility of the education department, one thing is certain: the MCD, which bears direct responsibility for regulating activities in residential and mixed land use areas, can hang up his boots. My suggestion: without any delay, act against the officers and staff of the MCD who fail to check the stop and stop the misuse of this basement. Second, do not bring coaching centers under the mandate of state education department, because that will legitimize what is clearly a business and confer credibility to the idea that they are imparting education. Registration and licensing are needed, but they should be administered exactly as is done for scores of activities that require oversight: gyms, swimming pools, theatres and cinema halls. There is something of an island mentality in act of drawing up a bill that introduces an employment quota for domiciles of Karnataka. The bill proposing reservation of Kannadigas in employment and approved by the cabinet of the Siddaramaiah government received immediate pushback, with some critics calling it unconstitutional. Whether the now postponed bill is so would be a matter for the courts, but it certainly goes against the idea of India, that this is a land of many peoples representing diverse culture who live together peaceably. It also reflects a lack of understanding of India's recent history. Before I turn to explain why this is so, as someone who has lived happily in the city in the past, I believe that the bill does not reflect the sentiment of the average Kannadiga, who is mostly welcoming of outsiders. Rather, it is a reflection of the worst kind of appeasement of the cultural Israel wants to hurt Hezbollah but not drag the Middle East into all-out war, two Israeli officials said on Monday, as Lebanon braced for retaliation after a rocket strike that killed 12 children and teens in an Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Two other Israeli officials said Israel was preparing for the possibility of a few days of fighting following Saturday's rocket strike as posts filled in Druze village. All four officials, who included a senior defense official and a diplomatic source, spoke on condition of anonymity and gave no further information about Israel's plan for retaliation. The estimation is that the response will not lead to an lead to an all-out war, said the diplomatic sources. That would not be our interest at this point. On Sunday, Israel Security Cabinet authorized Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister decide on the manner and timing of a response to the strike. Israel and the United States have blamed Lebanon's Hezbollah for the strike. Hezbollah has denied any role. The incident has added to concerns that months of cross-border hostilities between Israel and the Iran-backed Lebanese group could spiral into a broader, more destructive war. Chinese President Xi Jinping and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni discussed the war in Ukraine and the crisis in the Middle East at a meeting in Beijing on Monday, Meloni's office said. Meloni, whose country currently holds the rotating G7 presidency, stressed the importance of China as a partner in dealing with growing global insecurity during their talks. Meloni is seeking to relaunch her country's economic ties with Beijing after Italy excited Xi's flagship Belt and Road initiative last year, and amid deteriorating trade ties between the West and the world's second largest economy. Italy is of strategic importance to China as it has struck out on its own with Beijing before and could prove to be moderating voice within the bloc. Both sides face important opportunities for mutual development, she told Meloni at the start of their meeting. China and Italy should uphold the spirit of the Silk Road so that the bridge of communication between East and West through it can rebound into a new era. I think that Italy can also play an important role in relations with the European Union, and here too the attempts to create trade relations that are as balanced as possible. The United States announced a new security assistance package for Ukraine on Monday that is valued at up to $200 million and includes air defenses, White House National Security spokesperson said. This includes a presidential drawdown authority package to provide Ukraine with key capabilities for the fight that they are in, including air defense interceptors, munitions for US provided HIMARS, artillery and mortar rounds, Javelin anti-tank missiles and other anti-tank weapons, Kirby told reporters. He said the Department of Defense also is announcing significant security assistance initiative funds to support Ukraine's defenses over the long term. That package includes capabilities to augment Ukraine's air defenses and anti-tank weapons and to sustain equipment previously committed by the US. Biden has authorized 9 security assistance packages since late April. He said Ukrainian officials have been urging their allies for months to supply more air defense systems to counter Russian missile and drone attacks. The United States has provided Ukraine with more than $50 billion worth of military since 2022. But there are concerns about the future of US support for Kyiv should Donald Trump win the November 5 presidential candidate. On Saturday, pistol shooter Sarabjot Singh choked when asked to describe his emotions after missing out the final because of poor shot out of 60. Sarabjot returned stronger and now has a chance to redeem himself after he qualified for the mixed team bronze medal match together with Manu Bhakar, who has a chance to become the first Indian athlete to win 2 medals at the Olympics. But Arjun Baboota who on Monday missed an Olympic medal in the 10-meter air rifle in the cruelest of ways, sounded like a man who would pay a fortune to be anywhere but the cramped room at the shooting ranges in the Chatterox. He was asked if a 4th place finish was a scenario he planned for. He looked incredulous. For more than half of his life, the 25-year-old has pursued a solitary goal, an Olympic podium finish. When he started shooting, hanging a target on a roadside tree outside his house in Jalalabad, a border town in Fazilka, Baboota visualized himself shooting in the Olympics and finishing with a medal around his neck. Finishing 4th is not something athletes prepare themselves for. 4th is the worst position to be in. The pain is unbearable. He said, taking long pauses between words, it's very hard to deal with. Sarabjot and Manu will face the South Korean team of the Lee Yong-ko and Oh Ji-jin in Tuesday's medal match. Both Lee and Hoo-oh won gold medals in their individual rounds, pointing at the youth challenge that stares at the Indian duo, who have personal motivations to exceed expectations. For Sarabjot, this is a chance to not return empty-handed before the game. From the games, he could not qualify for the final of the individual event because he shot 1 in 10, less than his opponent. Manu, who won a bronze medal on Sunday, has a chance to do something no Indian athlete has ever done: win 2 medals at the same games. After becoming the first Indian woman shooter to stand at an Olympic podium, she has shot at creating further history. Lakshya Sen was on court for the second time at Paris 24, but effectively this counted as his first match after his previous opponent's withdrawal. It was not ideal, but it changed nothing for Lakshya. He had to fight back in the opening game against Julian, but ensured he closed the match out in straight games to set up a sensational shootout against Jonathan Christie. It is hard to accurately estimate how good or bad the Indian men's hockey team have started their campaign at the Paris Olympics. There is a case to be made that both matches so far have posed more questions than answers. For all the talk of getting to the Olympics fully ready to hit top gear, they have stuttered in large parts of their matches. After identifying that conceding early goals was a concern, they have gone down to 0-1 against New Zealand and Argentina. And yet you could say, for the glass half fulfilled, they have gathered 4 points from 2 matches, behind only Belgium and Australia. Harmanpreet Singh has scored 2 thrilling late goals, both in the penultimate minute of the match. They have clinched victory from the jaws of the draw and draw from that of defeat. Surely that cannot be too bad. On Monday, up against a gritty Argentina side that withered the Indian storm until the 58th minute, the captain stepped up once again to somewhat paper over the cracks, but also brought cheer that late goals inevitably tend to do. It was not perhaps the most cleanest direct flick he has ever sent towards goal, but it had enough venom and dash of that crucial aspect that often decides that these tight matches. Luck, as it took a deflection and beat the otherwise sensational Thomas Santiago in goal. India remained unbeaten after 2 matches in the Pool B.